To those across the known galaxy, we were a joke, Earth's so-called expeditionary force, barely ranked as a footnote among the powerful civilizations that dominated the cosmos. Even the technologically modest Norwich called us the Crawlers, given our reliance on such antiquated engines. And those were the friendliest terms we got. It was humiliating, but we hadn't yet earned anything more. At least that was what they all thought. In a universe where sentient life bloomed across dimensions and timelines, Earth was an afterthought, a cosmic backwater, technologically outpaced by eons. The strongest of them, the Akar, could access hyperspace with an ease that made our nuclear rockets look like toys. The elusive Dire could manipulate quantum fields as naturally as we manipulated water. Even smaller powers like the trading Barthol could warp subspace enough to make short work of long journeys. We watched them all zoom past us, leaving us in the stellar dust. But we were hiding something, and none of them suspected it. The ISS Dauntless was Earth's first successful attempt to exploit seventh-dimensional mechanics. To the casual eye, she looked laughable, boxy, held together by obvious reinforcement beams, and thrusters bolted on as if in a desperate attempt to modernize her appearance. No sleek insectoid shape like the Dire crafts, no ominous shimmering hull like the Akar, just human ingenuity in steel alloys and the rough welds of something that had been built in secret in a mad race against time and disbelief. The public called it Project Ascendant, a name they laughed at, knowing Earth's capabilities, but we who worked on it knew the ship by another name. The Mirage. Her design was intentionally clunky, borderline embarrassing, a deception we took pride in. Though to others it seemed absurd, with her seventh-dimensional drive hidden beneath layers of metal and hull plating. No one ever suspected the truth, and so we waited. The Kolak Nebula Conclave, the galaxy was abuzz. The Kolak Nebula Conclave was one of the greatest gatherings of spacefaring species in the cosmos, a once-a-century meeting where the most advanced ships from each civilization flaunted their prowess, their scientific breakthroughs, and the sheer might of their technology. Every ship present was a testament to its civilization's power, each one bristling with weapons, cloaked in defensive tech or boasting engines that could bend space-time. It was at the Kolak Conclave that Earth would make its debut, a rookie with a laughable, clunky ship held together by nothing more than the goodwill of metal and welding. Earth's, what? The Akar delegation's representative nearly laughed aloud when they first saw the Mirage arrive. The sight of our ship, arriving via standard impulse drives, no less, elicited genuine laughter from others, who could hardly believe that this fragile-looking vessel would have the audacity to park alongside their advanced fleets. Let them laugh, Captain Elena Torrance murmured, a sly smile on her face as she watched her crew bristle with frustration. Soon they'll see. The mission briefing was simple. The Mirage would participate in a mock battle, a standard event in which ships from different civilizations showcase their technology by tagging each other with harmless EMP pulses. For centuries, the Akar and Dire had dominated these events, pushing their ships' maneuverability and precision to awe-inspiring levels. Earth's record in mock battles, non-existent, but the ISS Dauntless, the Mirage, hadn't come to watch. The first move, the battle began with a mock run from the Barthol's twin song, a sleek Viper-like ship with a subspace shunt that allowed it to appear and disappear in different locations with dizzying speed. She executed a series of aggressive moves toward the Mirage, sending EMP pulses that would cripple most smaller crafts. Activate the seventh-dimensional slipstream, Captain Torrance ordered. Calm as ever, we braced for the unknown. The seventh-dimensional drive had been tested in simulated environments, and we'd conducted low-energy runs in controlled space. But this was the first time it would operate at full capacity. To those around us, however, nothing seemed to happen. It looked as if the Mirage was sitting there, sluggish and stationary. As the twin song closed in, then, in an instant, everything changed. The Barthol vessel overshot by kilometers, its readings scrambling and unable to make sense of what had just occurred. Sensors from other ships noted a faint shimmer, a ripple in the coordinates where the Mirage had been, and then she was somewhere else. Aboard the Mirage, we were simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. Our ship existed in the seventh-dimensional slipstream, occupying infinitesimal coordinates across the three-dimensional universe, a blur that was impossible to track. With a flick of her wrist, Captain Torrance directed our counterfire. One by one, the ships around us froze, their systems disabled by the EMP pulse from a phantom source. To their sensors, it looked as if the pulses had come from empty space, like a ghostly presence hunting each ship with relentless precision. What is that?" one of the Dire commanders blurted over the shared channel. Panic edged his voice as he tried to trace the Mirage's location, only to find himself caught in a dizzying, endless loop. It was then that the observers, the spectators who knew everything and boasted endlessly of their technological superiority, began to realize that Earth had brought something they couldn't comprehend. The true power of the seventh dimension, the Akar ship, a massive serpentine structure called Grathos, launched its own counteroffensive. Their weapons could destabilize quantum fields, rip through layers of subspace, and render even the most sophisticated cloaks ineffective. Yet with every attempt to hit us, their attacks missed, splintering off into the void. But we weren't evading them conventionally. The seventh-dimensional slipstream allowed us to exist outside of their reality, operating from an adjacent plane that only occasionally intersected with theirs. We could phase in and out of three-dimensional space, watching from behind a veil they couldn't see through. Phase 2, Captain Torrance commanded. Now that we'd demonstrated our elusiveness, it was time for a demonstration of force. With careful calibration, our engineers aligned the seventh-dimensional oscillators, unleashing a kinetic wave through the dimensional boundary. The impact hit Grathos square on, throwing it off course and distorting its field generators. Their shields flickered, then vanished, leaving the imposing ship vulnerable. The crowd watching from the various observatory stations gasped. The Akar had never been touched in open combat, not once in over 1,000 years. Yet there it was, the mighty Grathos, adrift and powerless. "Can they even see us?" First Officer Lien asked, her tone both thrilled and bemused. Captain Torrance only smiled, the shift in the balance. As the mock battle continued, one by one, ships from different factions attempted to tag or intercept us, their attacks missing or falling apart as they failed to understand our dimensional maneuvers. We sent controlled pulses that deactivated their systems, each one a lesson in humility. Then, a ship from the Dire fleet attempted a full-scale quantum entanglement attack, a final desperate measure to track us across our dimensional boundaries. "Activate the Convergence Array," Captain Torrance ordered. The Convergence Array was a unique addition to the Mirage, a last-resort weapon designed to create a momentary collapse in the dimensional barrier, snapping us back into conventional space with a force powerful enough to destabilize any vessel nearby. With a shudder, the Mirage coalesced back into visible space, appearing inches away from the Dire ship. The shockwave hit them instantly, knocking their engines offline and disintegrating their tracking systems. "We yield," the Dire ship transmitted, their signal shaky and fractured. Others quickly followed. The silence that followed was as thick as the interstellar void. No one had anticipated this, and none were willing to risk further humiliation. The once ridiculed Earth ship now stood alone, the unlikely victor in a competition it was never supposed to win. The respect earned afterward, they didn't laugh. Earth, it seemed, had finally broken free from the cosmic joke we had once been. The Akar, the Dire, and countless others watched us with new wariness. Whispers spread across the conclave. The seventh dimension was no longer an uncharted frontier. It was a weaponized reality Earth had unlocked. As we prepared for the journey home, Captain Torrance looked out at the stars and the humbled ships still idling near the nebula. She turned to her crew, pride in her eyes. "Remember this day," she said, her voice unwavering. They laughed, yes, but it was only until they saw what we could truly do, and so Earth, a fledgling among Titans, had finally made its mark across the stars. The ISS Dauntless, the Mirage, had proven our mettle, and the galaxy would never look at us the same way again.